Well, hi everyone, and welcome to A Mind Over Menopause. My name is Clarissa Christensen. I am a menopause transition specialist, a mindfulness practitioner, and a neuroscientist by training. In today's talk, I'm going to really unfold why the way you think about your menopause is an integral part of how you actually go through this life transition and the experiences that you have. It's important for us to recognize that our thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes can really shape the way we go through menopause. But let's just stop there for a moment and think about, well, what is this transition in life? And how does it and who does it affect? By the year 2025, hey, that's not far off, is it? There will be 1 billion women, that's 12% of the world's population, in their menopause transition. And I believe personally that it's time to change the conversation about menopause, for us to open a different dialogue and to recognize how much the way we think and reflect about this time of life shapes whether we have a difficult time or whether we actually move through our transition feeling healthy, vital, and well set up for the next phase of our life. Increasingly, for many of us, we are going to live a third, maybe even a half of the life. If you're like me and you've got plenty of relatives that live to be 100, then, going through your menopause in your late 40s, 50s, wow, means that you're actually going to have a wonderful next half of your life still there. And good morning to you too, David. I can see you here watching. Delighted to see you. Now, just for a moment, let's ask ourselves, what is menopause? Well, quite often we talk about menopause as if it's some sort of overarching thing. But there is perimenopause, which is really the total transition. This is when our hormones are changing and fluctuating, and we feel at first maybe irregular periods, lighter, shorter, heavier, more scattered, and then symptoms emerge. We know them, some of them: hot flashes, weight gain. Maybe we're also experiencing anxiety, depression, brain fog, painful joints. Gosh, the list goes on. But of course, your menopause transition is dictated by a number of factors. Some of it's genetic. We can't do much about that. We have to live with our genes, all of us. Some of it's about your lifestyle, but also a portion of it is how you think about your menopause. Do you have a negative mindset, or do you have one that's more open, more accepting, and more acknowledging? After perimenopause, we go into menopause, very short, brief time. Boof, that's that. And then there is a time when we are post-menopausal. And that's obviously when everything has ended for us in terms of our changes. We may still have some symptoms, but that is then the rest of our life as a non-fertile but wonderful older woman. Like me, I'm 60 this year, so I'm definitely post-menopausal. But how about our mindset? What does that mean? Well, let's start at the beginning, that for many of us, we still are a little bit in the dark. As a menopause transition specialist, people ask me every day, is this normal? Is that normal? What am I supposed to be feeling, knowing, doing? What's going on here? And if we're in the dark, then we know also that men are in the dark, and sometimes our employers are too. A little bit lost. And that's a space into which myths, misconceptions, and negativity, worrying and fearing the worst, can occur. And how do we know that? Well, we know that there's been some really good studies, both academic and some really great surveys, that show, first and foremost, that the less information that women have and men too, about the menopause, the more difficult the experience is. Obviously not for men, but they're going to get the fallout of it. But clearly that when we don't have a lot of knowledge, women grasp on to negativity. They grasp onto feelings of fear because we don't know what to expect. We don't know what's happening. And the research that was done there showed that women who had a lot of limited information often had more intense and more difficult menopause transitions. And there was a direct correlation with those who had more information to those who actually experienced menopause as a transition that was positive and that took them to a whole new space in life. Why? Knowledge is important and knowledge is power. And I know that there are lots of amazing people around the world who are doing really strong work to lift our understanding. And I think the UK lies absolutely the forefront. So if you're British, you're actually in a very great space, that there's great information being built up, factual. And in fact, I read on Instagram, I think, that the most searched term on Google in 2019 was perimenopause. So women are looking for information, they're looking for support, and having that is going to help us to know what to expect. We can feel reassured, and obviously having information and knowing where you can go gives us great courage and ability to literally go through this transition feeling supported. But of course that information isn't quite always there. If you live in the US, yeah, fine, New York City, LA, but how does that look in downtown Tennessee or Louisiana, small towns there, where women's healthcare is being compromised on every level? Then that situation might be different. And the conversation and information that flows, even if you were to hop across the channel, might be very different. The conversation needs to be out there, and to help women have a better menopause, we need to raise that level of information globally. That takes away our tendency to grasp onto the negative and expect the worst. What we also know is that when we have a negative attitude to the menopause, then we tend to feel our symptoms more. I spent a lot of my life prior to working with menopausal women helping people who lived with chronic pain and long-term illness. In those situations, the more we resist, the more we tense, the more we're negative about our pain, the more we feel it. And menopause for me is much the same. And paradoxically, the more we can lean into the experiences we don't like, then the easier it is actually for us to have a better transition journey. More recently, what we found was that it isn't just the absence of negative thinking, but the absence of positive thoughts. If I take this as a neuroscientist and I just think about why negativity, we love it, why we love the stories on Instagram, we love them. There comes this catalogue of all the problems I've had. 3 horror stories from the menopause coming up now. And we all go on and there's like 1,000 clicks on Instagram likes. Well, that's because we're hardwired to the negative. I love this saying from Rick Hansen, who is one of my teachers. He's a very well-known neuropsychologist, and he said, negative thoughts are like Velcro and positive thoughts are like Teflon. So when we see a story about negativity, when we see, everybody telling their horror stories, when a celebrity comes up and does the full works about how bad it was, we suck it up. We love it. It's firing all our neurons. And we build those stories and we say, yes, I can relate to this. But then what are we? We're hardwired to the negative. We're hardwired to loving those stories. But do they actually help? If thinking negatively makes our symptoms worse or can exacerbate them in some way, they may not be better or worse in real terms, but our perception of them, then where is the space for positivity to come in? I am absolutely passionate about working with my own clients to, one, provide knowledge, but also to work on how we can let in the good. That doesn't mean that we're pushing away the experiences that are difficult, but we are making space for positive thoughts to flow in, to allowing this time in our lives to be one of newfound wisdom, a sense of purpose, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. You might be saying, she's nuts. She's crazy. How could I approach the menopause from a positive mindset? But I really believe that when we do, we take those sense of good feelings, that wisdom, those benefits into our older age, into that third or second half of our life. And we're just getting older and we're getting better. You know, think wine, it ages well. So do we. So in this part of the talk, I really would love to explore, how can you shift your menopause mindset? How can we look at it from a positive perspective? Just for a moment, I'd like you to pause. If you're a woman, and think how much of your life you have lived in a hormonal flux. Our life is marked by hormonal transitions. Puberty. We go through hormone changes every 28 days. We have pregnancy if we have children. Then perimenopause, and then the menopause and postmenopause. Really, we're in a state of flux. And even though our moods and emotions wax and wane, a bit like the tides of the ocean at times, it's this fluidity that is the beautiful thing about being a woman. We were built to embody change. And rather than resisting that change, we see it as a space to grow. And of course, change isn't all sunshine and roses. Let's be honest, the menopause, when you're feeling overweight, moody, tired, well, it's actually crap. There's no other word to really describe that. That's how it makes you feel. But it's the acknowledgement and the acceptance of this that's important. And that's what also gets into your mindset, that you can always choose how you want to react, how you want to respond, how you want to control what you can control. There's a very fine balance between keeping it real in uncomfortable times and completely sacrificing your power and getting stuck in the negative spiral. After all, you know, even if we weren't talking about menopause, we'd be saying to anyone, man or a woman, the way you view any stage in life is up to you. And what you believe, you become. That's a great quote from Oprah. So let's talk about what I call the 5 R's. Those are the steps that you could take to embrace a mind over menopause, to embrace a positive menopausal mindset. So you ready? Shall we dive in? My very first point is how important it is to recognize your feelings, to actually acknowledge what's going on for you. Just think about what you resist persists. If we push away the way we feel, whether that's actually physical or emotional, it tends to come back. It's like that little annoying thing saying, hello, you need to listen to me. And that's what we don't want to do. We want to be able to actually also not pretend that everything's fine. Modern women are not having our mother's menopause. We went around stoically saying, I'm absolutely fine, and never talking to anybody about it. You know, but we want to keep it real, being strategic about how we're feeling, being productive about how we're feeling. I'm a great fan of the work of Dr. Christopher Germer. He wrote The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion. And in his work, which he did jointly with Dr. Kirsten Neff, who's a great compassion specialist, they talk a lot about recognizing our feelings when we don't feel well. This whole space of soothe, soften, and allow. So when you're in menopause and you're feeling mood swings, you're feeling grumpy because you haven't slept, maybe you're feeling overheated, what could you do to acknowledge that discomfort? How could you care for yourself? Could you maybe journal it out? That can help. Maybe it's time to do a soothe, soften, allow type meditation where you put your hand, as I've done, on my heart, and for a moment just reflect. Breathe in and breathe out and say to yourself, yes, I'm experiencing this discomfort right now, but you know what? It's okay. You're okay, and it's okay not to be okay. Maybe it's like you have to do something. If you're sitting there wriggling and you can't sleep, why are you fighting it? Get up, make a cup of tea, listen to some good music, but recognize what you're feeling. And if we're feeling down about this hormonal shift, do you speak to yourself in a shame-based language? You're telling yourself how stupid you are, how bad you are. Just acknowledge it. Find your compassionate voice. Accept the circumstances and use language that's supporting and caring. How much can you be at peace with your discomfort and accept the present moment? The more you can do that, you're in tune with recognizing your feelings and working towards positivity. My second way to embrace a more positive menopausal mindset is actually to reflect on what you've learnt and what a journey you are and you've come on. Aging, well, it brings with it its own existential and physical woes. Hey, we might not be able in menopause to eat what we once ate without, a moment on the lips becoming a lifetime on the hips. We might not have the energy we had to do all the things we used to do. But what do we actually learn from these changes? You might have learnt to slow down, to appreciate each moment, each little day, every bit a little bit more. Guess what? We don't have to do 100 things at once. After all, we've probably got another 30 years to live, so why do it all now? Slow down. Recognize that despite the view of modern society that we're supposed to look a certain way or be a certain way or say a certain thing or do a certain thing, you are actually not defined by the size of your hips, how many shoes you've got in your wardrobe or anything else. And that's a beautiful wisdom that comes from this time in your life. And I think if you reflect on that, you wouldn't trade it for anything. Take stock of what you've overcome. It's amazing if you reach your late 40s, early 50s, how much we've done. And I bet you would look back and say, gosh, I'm not the same woman I was 10 years, 20 years ago. And very few of us would want to be 20 again. We've undoubtedly navigated obstacles. And now is the time, I think, to say how wonderful. I'm not the woman I once was. I'm actually better. Look at how much I've learned, how much courage and strength I've actually gained. My third R is to reconnect with your body. If I had a little picture here, and I might draw it right now, like a little kid's drawing. Oh, you can't probably see that. There you go. We probably walk around a bit like that, a bit of a head on a body. And quite often we're a bit disconnected from our bodies. And when our bodies don't feel great, we have a great tendency to move away from that, to become even more heady, lost in thoughts, discouraged, and not able to connect. Connecting back into the body helps us drop out of our conceptual mind into our perceptual mind. It helps us to, again, connect and listen, listening to the body, learning from the body, and allowing all three of our brains to work for us. We've got a brain in the head, which is great for logic, reasoning, brainstorming, problem solving. But we've also got a gut brain, and a heart brain. When we tune into the body, we're allowing those two other brains to work for us. And it makes us question, what do I do that brings you joy? Movement? Hey, but do I need to go pushing it out on the gym and weighing myself and working really hard? Or could I find new ways to make me happy through movement? Do you want to go tango dancing? Connect with your body and go dancing. I had a wonderful woman that I met many years ago when I was a much younger woman, and she wanted a horse ride. Wow, she wanted to go riding. She'd never ridden. On 50, she got on a horse. On 80, she was still riding. She did something for her body that she loved. She connected in with something great. The same goes for eating. We can eat mindfully and intuitively. We don't need to be told we need to eat vegetables and fruit and more fiber. We actually know that. But we need to also work with our bodies, tune in with our bodies, rest when we need to rest. Do things that make us happy. That listening to what our body needs, nurturing it, and tuning in. This is a time of life when we can also redefine our purpose in life. And that gives us a positive mindset. It's a real crossroads in our life because menopause is a biopsychosocial change as much as it's just symptoms and the bio part. It's also a lot changing around us. This is maybe a time when our children become teenagers and empty nesters and leave. We gain freedom. We can gain freedom because maybe we've cared for parents and sadly they pass away. But it's a time for us to sit back and reflect on our careers. Do I want to do this for another 15 or 20 years? When we stop, when we redefine our purpose, what am I here to do? What do I want from life? And what does life want from me? I'd suggest free writing, write things out, create a vision board, meditate on it, but look at where you want to put your energy going forward. We're not walking the same path that we did. I often believe that at this stage in life, women need a break, actually. We need a space, not conveyor belting onwards. Wouldn't it be great if we could all have a 3-month sabbatical and just sit back, write, vision board, connect in and say, what do I want from life? Maybe that's hard to do, but maybe you can spend time on a weekend, in an evening, working through what you really want, getting clear. And that's how you can grow more contentment at this time of life, seeing it as a time of opportunity, a time of growth. And finally, my 5th R that we can embrace for a positive mind over menopause is to really rekindle or kindle female friendship. Women are tribal. Menopause can make us want to withdraw, shut ourselves off from the world. But more than ever, we need friendship, relationships, connection. People who reflect our values, not negative Facebook groups where we talk about how much we hate our husbands and how bad our symptoms are. I'd suggest you ditched those, actually. But connecting in with positive groups who bring laughter, wisdom, acceptance to you. Lean on each other, cry with each other, lift each other up, and really invest in your friendship and remember that you never have to go this journey alone. So those are my 5 R's. To really recognize your feelings, reflect on how far you've come, reconnect with this beautiful, amazing body with gratitude. Redefine your purpose. Where do you want to be? What is your heart's deepest desire? In yogic terms, we'd say, what is your sankalpa? And nurture your friendships to lift you up and carry you forward through what can be a difficult time. And to close, just think, yes, menopause brings with it a fair share of discomfort and unpleasant symptoms. But you cannot only learn to manage this time, but you can remember to celebrate it. You're getting older. Getting older is a gift that some of us who have friends won't make it. So nourish and care for yourself, nourish your soul, and honor this chapter in your life. And we got joined by the dog. She's probably signaling it's time to go. I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, how you go about embracing a more positive menopause. Pop them there, I'll answer them. And I hope that you have a fantastic rest of this wonderful Wednesday.